everybody. We all know how important it's to feel happy and content at work. Feeling positive about what you do on a regular basis stimulates you to connect to your colleagues and to also enjoy the projects that you're working on. This motivates you to feel more confident so you can grow and challenge yourself. My name is Karina García del Real. I am the Community Manager at Katan Science Partner, and I will be your host during this webinar. Katan Science Partner believes in the power of collaboration and sharing knowledge in our community. And for this reason, we have prepared for you a series of 4 webinars on topics related to health and happiness at work. In this series, we are going to unpack different topics that have a direct impact on your performance at work. So you can also think about focusing on productivity, for example. How can you expand your business, bring your product to the market, or advance your research, and therefore allowing you to also reach your personal and your team's goals. Joining our webinars, we have an expert, Sylvie Vicino from WorkJoy. Sylvie is a certified international leadership facilitator with over 20 years of experience working with different teams in different sectors, from startups to very large corporates. Sylvie will be leading the conversation in every topic, and she will give us an introduction into what we're going to be discussing today. She will also give you some ideas so you can directly put them to the test. Moreover, we have a member from our Kadans community who will be joining us as well. Our community member, will be sharing more about how they tackle certain situations at work and how do they look at this topic within their own teams or within their own company. So let's get started on our first topic, which is going to be on mental health. I'd like to welcome Sylvie Vicino. Please join me.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, Sylvie, good morning. It's really nice to have you here with us to facilitate in this first webinar that we have today. We have a series of 4 different topics. This one's going to be on mental health, and I believe this is a very relevant topic. More and more we see that companies are appreciating different techniques to keep their employees happy, at peace, maybe help them connect to their colleagues better through social activities, but also opening the floor to interaction and to ask questions if things are not going well, for example.
I think mental health should be high on every agenda by now, and more you see that there's more attention for mental health.
Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to your presentation today on mental health. I'm sure you're going to have some tips for us, some takeaways that we can directly implement and share with our colleagues. So I'll give the floor to you, and looking forward to it.
Thank you, Karina. So, as mentioned by Karina, we start with the webinar Mental Health. I'm very happy that more and more companies put it high on their agenda, because I think it's a very important topic that is influencing a lot at the working floor. So, I will give you a very short intro and then tell you why it's so important to make the mind important, and you should mind the mind. I would like to show you a little process that we can do to support a good mental health. And I would like to talk about some conditional circumstances, because of course there's a lot to say about it. We only have a certain time available. And then I will talk to Mike, who is a health manager at Van der Lande, and he will also tell us more about what he is doing to make mental health high on the agenda at Van der Lande. So, my name is Sylvie Vicino. I'm a happy, hard worker. One of my concepts is hard fun. I believe that we spend so much time at work that I think we all want to go to work with a smile on our face, and we all want to leave with a smile on our face. Hard fun means for me hard work, but have a lot of fun while doing it. I'm an international leadership facilitator, as already mentioned by Karina, and I'm a trainer for WorkJoy since 2019. Now, mental health is a priority that should be on the agenda. And there should be a clear process for companies to guide their employees in this topic. Because again, as I already mentioned, it influences everything. If you talk about a vital workplace, mental health is fundamental. It has an influence on almost everything. We will have 4 webinars in this series, and I think that mental health has an impact on all of the topics that we are going to discuss. We're going to discuss productivity. Now, you can imagine that productivity is influenced by mental health issues. Do we have enough energy? Are we in the right mindset to do what we should do? And is our production capability good enough? Or is it influenced by the mental health? Another topic that we are going to discuss is team building. Now, when a person in a team is not feeling completely happy or has an issue to deal with, we can imagine that that has an influence on teams as well. So also a topic for us is change your mind. So how do you grow as a person? If you have a mental issue, actually growth is impacted big time, because a mental health issue makes you smaller rather than enables you to grow. So what can we do to maintain a happy crew or actually make them happier? And in all my webinars, I would like to address the employers, but also the employees. Now, this is a model that you will see in all my webinars, because for me it represents the moment where I say, okay, stay aware. Because when people are in the right mindset, positive mindset, they are at their best in whatever they are doing. Sometimes it's very hard to recognize when the mindset gets less green. Now imagine you wake up, you have a good day, everything looks fine and it's green, but then things happen to you on your way. And sometimes that line between having a great green day or getting a little bit more orange is a very thin line. So sometimes it can be as small as just having a bad day, but we don't notice that we are going from green to orange. And if we don't do something there, you might go even worse, and that's the red zone. And then we talk about a negative mindset. So this is a model that we see in all the webinars. And my message is, if you see that people are out of their usual green, happy state, and you see that changing, attention please, what can we do to secure happiness, satisfaction, and engagement at work? So, the mind. You see here 3 faces, but I think that faces that look a little bit unhappy, one big thing that we can offer them is ask them, how are you? Tell me, how are you? What is going well and what is going not so well? So allow people to ventilate. Because when we talk about a building, it's very clear. Air conditioning is great and climate control, because then we have a good climate. We need ventilation. But I would say that also goes for for employers, employees. And we have this idea that we shouldn't complain at the work floor. Now, and I urge you, employers and employees, ventilate, just ventilate. I give workshops, and often I start my workshop with that question, like, how are you today? And can you please complain a little bit about the things you would like to complain about? Now, and that's a very funny exercise, because you really see that people are having fun ventilating, being allowed to say what is not really good. And what you notice then is that it will go less and less and less if you just allow people to tell you what is wrong with them, or what is wrong with the day, or what is wrong with the situation, or what is wrong with the task they need to do. So allow ventilation would be my first tip of today. You will get more awareness of people's well-being and you know the current state of mind. And I think that the current state of mind is always the starting point. So if we need to get something done, who do we have? How are we here? Is it okay? Do we feel right? Ventilation, the power of ventilation. Now, a big problem nowadays, I think, is stress. So you see this picture, this is a guy, he's not stressful, this guy is on fire. He's having fun and a lot of energy, big smile on his face. So recognizing those signals is in a way quite easy, because if you look at this picture, you say, okay, from on fire to burnt out. And, or at least very tired. So she finished her day, still a lot to do, a kid in the background. And I always think that a proper balance is super important. And if I speak about a proper balance, I mean that we should professionally be happy. And we should have a job that really fits us. It should have some purpose and meaning. We should be able and capable to do it. But we also have a personal life. And in the last few years, I think that that proper balance became a lot different than many years ago when we were still just talking about a work-life balance. Now you often work from home. Here a meeting, there a meeting, something in between. So it's very important to keep an eye on a proper balance. So we can do that ourselves, but we can certainly do that as managers or people working for HR organization. Read the signals by looking at the people. Now, a general rule that I would say to create a good well-being at the job is that it's important that people are in the right mindset to give a lot of effort, to do what they do right, so that their input is optimum. They know what they bring and they can speak up and they have an influence on their own working day. And on the other side, as an employer, you want output from your employee. So I like this model because what you would like to have is an employee with a high input. Very present, very engaged, very committed, very knowledgeable. So the right aptitude, but also the right attitude. And as a result of that, you get a high output of these persons. Now there is, of course, the first quadrant, left top. People have a high input when they just start working, but when they just start working, they are often still new on the job, they are still learning. And then it's very important that you give them a good guidance, because even people with big talents, if you just put them behind a computer and you say, well, good luck with your job, they need some guidance. They are depending on you. They need systems, they need support, they need a working place, preferably a happy working place, happy colleagues, and so forth. And they need time to learn. But again, guidance is very important because at a certain point, as an employer, you want the output from that person. So when they are still learning, there is a high input and the output could be a little bit lower, but please give those people time to adjust. And with the right guidance, you get it both. And those are the people leading their job, leading their life. So they feel responsible for the job, they act on the part where they have influence, and they make an impact on their own daily lives, but as an employer, you are happy with those people because they have a great output. Now, when people are getting a bit in the burning phase, often they experience too much stress, But there could also be any other reason for a mental health issue. It could be something underlying in the person itself. As an employer, you can then recognize it by reading the signals, as I just mentioned in the previous slide. What you will see is that the question on the output stays, because the employer knows what this person is capable of doing, so there's still this high demand on what this person should deliver. But the input goes lower, and that you will see in the energy of the person. And that's also this moment where people could go more into the orange. They feel that there is asked a lot from them, and they feel not in the right energy to deliver. So that's the moment where we should guide those people in a different way. We should try to find out, what is it that makes you feel bad? What is it that you don't feel so, that you have a lot of influence or impact on your daily job? If you don't guide those people right there, then the chance is very big that they go to the next quadrant, and that's the quadrant where you really don't want to have them. Because then they no longer have a high input, they don't have the energy, for whatever reason that could be, but they also don't have the output anymore. And that means that the purpose of their day, the purpose of their task, the purpose of their job is no longer so visible to them. So there we have a new problem, and a different level of support or guidance is needed from the employer, from the manager, from HR. And first of all, to find out what is really the issue. How are you? And why is it not going well? So deeper questions, room to ventilate, watching the signals, and where are your people acting? But also for you as an employee. How do you feel, and in which quadrant are you? Now, I don't know if you know this statement, first seeing and then believing. That's what you often hear. But actually, it's the other way around. We often see things only if we truly believe in them. So if we don't believe that we can do it, will we really try? And will we then see that we are really capable of doing it? Often when people are not in the right mindset, they lose a little bit belief in themselves, in their colleagues, sometimes in their employer, and again, sometimes it has nothing to do with work, and it's a different reason why people are not feeling so well. But the result is often that their belief is getting less. And if their belief is getting less, it means that their sight is getting more narrow, and they see less opportunities to feel better, to be better, to act in a different way. So, believe, act, and confirm. Now, this is important when you are an employee, but it's also important when you are an employer, a manager, an HR person, and so forth. If you are helping your employee because there is a mental issue, believe in that person, believe in the process that you are going to enter with this person, believe in the next step that you will take with this person, and also try to convince the person of their own capability and that they are able to do it. Because when they believe it, firmly believe it, they will do something that will actually make a difference. So sometimes there's some preparation needed, sometimes people need to practice first because they just feel a little bit insecure. But if you believe, the act will be a real act, will be a real attempt. Now, and if you take a real attempt, it will confirm. And it doesn't mean that it will go perfect right away, but for sure that person learned something. or the person feels more strong because of the practice that has been offered. Or it is actually confirmed that the person could indeed do it. So you are really moving on a step. And I think regardless the result is the effort that should be celebrated here. So whether you're an employee or an employer, but if you are here in this process, please celebrate what you are trying to do to get a different result. And another thing that I think is really important, when we see that the mental health of people is going down, or they are getting burned out, or whatever issue there could be, is that it gets more and more important that we make the steps smaller. I mean, when you're growing, you are already a little bit out of balance. Think of a stairs, and you are always lifting one foot. So you're always standing on one foot. And that's why it's so important to give the right guidance, to give the right support by offering smaller steps, by offering something to hold on to, either tools, either training, either a coach, or a weekly conversation could even be. But give them guidance and support. And I think this picture is showing it really nice. I think that there's this platform where we can breathe, where we can have some time to ourselves, where we can rest and relax before we move on to the next step. So mind your step if you are not feeling good, and mind the step of your colleague if you are guiding a colleague in this process. Now, in the beginning, I was already saying I will look at some conditional circumstances. Some people feel like a failure. I don't know if you recognize this, but I had this period in life where I felt like the biggest failure of my own life. And then one day somebody taught me that fail is nothing more than a first attempt in learning. And that changed a lot for me. Because if we don't even try, we will never fail. So if people fail, if you're an employer, they are at least trying. So be happy that they fail because they learned something, and it means that they are seriously trying. Now the other thing is, we all have bad days. So there is no mental issue, but you wake up, happy day, and then you drive to work, traffic is awful, then you arrive at work, colleagues are all having a bad day. The colleague that you had a discussion with yesterday comes back to you, says something unkind, and then your manager comes and bam, there you are, in the orange. So we all have bad days. How can we help those people making that bad day a better day? Now, one of the tips I gave is let them ventilate, because you will see that by having them ventilate, you take away all the bad things. They are talking about it, and talking about it really, really helps, because first of all, you hear yourself talking. Sometimes you think, it's actually not that bad. Or people understand you, or they went through the same. Now, another conditional circumstance is for me past pain. I think a lot of employers recognize this. So there has been changes in the company, and we used to do it like that, and that was much better. And you don't get those people along with you in the process to better, because they resist a little bit towards change, and it was all good, so why do we need to change? Now, a real attempt needs a real effort. So I always urge people, take away the past pain. I see it as a backpack full of past pain that people carry along while they are trying to be better. Now, try to imagine that you're climbing a very steep mountain with a heavy load on your back, which is not really positive. So past pain is something that employers should be really aware of. And again, I think ventilation is a very good tool to talk about that. Yeah, and another thing is patterns. Sometimes things can start as a positive process, but then in that process we over-ask people, or we think that was logical, part of the deal, but there is some misunderstanding, some expectations that were not really clear. So when does a positive pattern change into a negative one? We should be really aware of that. So how do we recognize that? And how do we uncultivate that? Because sometimes to be able to start something new or to make a solid positive change, first we need to stop doing something. And that's a step that we often forget. Unlearning, breaking negative patterns. And we need to do that before we can start a new pattern. So, what can you do to maintain a happy crew? I hope that this little webinar about mental health gave you already some ideas. I will, of course, still have a conversation with Mike, who is the health manager at Van der Lande. And he takes a very special approach to keeping his people happy and healthy at the work floor. If you do want to know more, here you have our contact details. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Sylvie, for your presentation. I thought it was really interesting. You gave some really concrete examples for anybody who's watching the presentation, for the employee, but also for those companies. And if I can just briefly wrap up what you mentioned, I heard ventilation is really important. Just talk about it, but also making the space safe enough, the environment in which people can feel comfortable about sharing if their day is not going very well. So that's a really good one to keep in mind. But also, I think I heard in your presentation briefly, less is more. Like leave things behind, try to unpack yourself from what you're carrying on and focus on little steps. Take a break, stop and rethink about it. So these are really great tips to take away and to directly implement. Now we're going to continue to the second part of our presentation. I'm really excited today because we have as our guest speaker from our Cadence community, Mike Lee Alin. Mike is a health manager at Van der Lande. Van der Lande is an international company. It's a market-leading global partner specialized in future-proof logistics, automation in the warehousing, airports, and parcel sectors. So now we're going to move into the conversation with Mike.
Hey Mike, it's so nice to see you here. I was really looking forward to meet you because I already heard you have some super cool things you do at Van der Lande to make people feel better. Tell us a little bit about it.
First, thank you for having me here. I'm Mike Lee Alin, working for Van der Lande as a health manager. And yes, what are we doing there in this different times of our life? The society changed rapidly, and what do we see there? It has a lot of influence on our behavior. Mm-hmm. We see the changes of our employees, but it is a thing of work and life balance. Mm-hmm. And how do we keep that in mind, and how do we keep the balance together? This is more important for us to see what is absenteeism means now. We have the physical part and the mental part of absenteeism, and that is what I do research for and try to keep a low absenteeism in the company.
Yeah, that's very good to hear. But give us some examples of the things that you are really doing. What are you offering to your employees?
Of course, if you look into the absenteeism, mm-hmm. we see a lot of things developing. Mm-hmm. And one of the most important things is that we see the mental issues are increased now. Mm-hmm. And that is very important for us. How does it come? Is it the workload? Is it the workload leading to the work stress? And is it the work stress is leading to the burnout? So what I'm doing is trying to make the connections between the company doctor and our case manager absenteeism and the insurance company and so on to find out what can we offer to our employees. And that is very important.
Beautiful. But as I understood, you also have some maintenance programs before it gets to that point,
Of course.
right?
Yes. In the first place, I'm more for the preventive side. And that is more important than we are in the medical side, you know. The preventive side is that we develop a lot of programs for our employees like yoga, like mindfulness training, like running, biking, and so on. We have 14 programs, and they helps to relax and find their recovery time.
Wow, and they are offered that at work, and is that continuously available, or do you do a program approach? How does that work?
Well, we work with instructors, and the most important thing of the instructors is that the most of the instructors, they are our employees. You are a good soccer player, yes? Why you don't play soccer with your colleagues?
Wow.
I am a runner. I run every Monday and Wednesday with my colleagues. And I train them, I learn them. How can you make run more fun?
But that's beautiful. So you actually take the experts from your own employees, and they have fun at what they are doing, and they spread the fun with their colleagues.
Yes, and not all we can do, because a yoga instructor is a different approach about that. So the yoga instructor we hire.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
but the most likely from that is that the yoga instructor is an intervention for us.
Yeah.
And in that interventions, the insurance company, they give us a vitality budget for that.
Wow, that's a new thing that I didn't know. That's very nice. And how many of the employees in general take part to the programs? Is it, can they decide themselves to participate, or is it requested by their manager, or?
No, it's for everybody. We have around 2,700 employees on the campus, and from that is almost 1,600 is participating
Wow.
in the program. So
In
that is
diverse programs.
Yes, and that is very nice because it's low for everybody. You can step in,
Yeah,
and the only thing you have to do is sign in for the programs.
yeah.
And since October, we have a new program for them, and that is the vitality budget from our benefits part. And everybody has 300 euros per year, and they can do what they like with the money.
But that's quite a high number of people participating
Yes,
to
yes.
those
It
programs.
makes me proud, and
yeah,
I'm very happy.
I can
because
imagine.
today it is very important to feel happiness at work.
Yeah, and do you then also measure, like, because when did you started this approach, these new programs?
The last one? We started in the beginning of February this year with a lot of new programs, like the energy platform, the Good Living app we make. And in the app, you find a lot of stuff like webinars, live work balance programs, energizers, sport activities. That is what we're doing since February. Yeah.
Beautiful. And again, after such a program, do you really feel like an uplifting spirit, more energy in that group, the people that participate?
Yes, we saw a lot of happy people, and the workload is very high. So if the happiness at work feeling is high, then we have the right balance.
Yeah.
And that's give me the
Exactly.
spirit to share my passion and energy with my colleagues.
Yeah, I'm very impressed by what you are telling. And of course, I'm really wondering also about the real measurement of things, because is there anything you could say about that? For me, this is totally new, this approach, very innovative, and I think is very helpful. But what can you say about measurement, the happiness level of employees? Is that measured?
Well, that's a little bit different because the most important thing I look at is what is the absenteeism number is doing.
That's, yeah.
Is it increase? Is it decrease? No, well, in this time it is increase. So my attention is how do we pay attention and how do we find out what's going on with our employees? And one of the things is that the mental issues are raising up, and that is asking a lot of attention.
Yeah.
And what are we doing for that? We make programs for them. They have a program like how can you recognize the symptoms and signals from mental issues.
Yeah, yeah. So you mainly try to prevent, of course, people falling out.
Of
Yeah,
course,
yeah.
prevention is the first thing.
Yeah, yeah. And also when they come back, so after a period, they needed to drop out because of an illness or because of an issue. Are they then immediately approached to take part in certain activities, or is everybody just aware of the fact that it is available?
That is what we're starting in November. There's a new program, brand new, and that is how do we recognize signals and symptoms about mental health issues. And in that program, we try to make aware what are the topics. How can I recognize things that makes me better? Or a colleague can tell, hey, I see my colleague is not working that good anymore or doesn't feel any good anymore. That is important. And it is not only for the supervisor or for the manager, it's for everybody.
Exactly. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think a near colleague will be the first actually to see a lower output coming from a colleague and could ask, hey, are you okay today? And but it's good that your task is just to look at it. That's amazing and a very interesting project that.
But the employee is, of course, is responsible for his own issues. But we are there for helping him to find solutions for that.
Yeah.
And if there is a conflict between you and your manager, as an example, or that you have some financial problems, or are you in a divorce, you know, you're not alone. We will help you to find the right intervention to bring you back where you belong.
And to give them, to allow them indeed confidence and trust where they can actually speak about those things. And that's beautiful because I think a lot of companies can still have a lot to do there.
Oh, yes.
Huh? Very nice. Yeah. Is there anything that I forgot? Something that you really want to share for other employers or employees? A small tip that you can give from your experience?
Well, in this time of our society and where we live in, the most important thing we have to share together is pay attention for each other. Like now that hybrid working at home, 2 days working at home, 3 days at the office. Pay attention to each other and help each other.
Yeah.
And don't feel alone. We are there for you.
Yeah.
That is in between Van der Landen.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice. Now, so to keep a proper balance, we should say in a professional life, we should also sometimes just discuss a bit our personal problems, to recognize how common they actually are, because sharing is really caring. And when you keep things in your mind by yourself, I think they grow. Well, if you discuss them with somebody else, they can flow maybe. And
what I say is, every day when I'm in the office, I share my energy with my colleagues. So that helps us and makes us strong and make one community. Everybody has to feel safe at the company. And that is the fundamental thing we start.
Yeah, beautiful. That's wonderful, Mike. Thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Mike and Sylvie, for your valuable insights about mental health. I feel like we're just talking about the tip of the iceberg. Of course, there's so much happening at Van der Landen. It's so amazing to hear all these programs. And I'm trying to think about what you also mentioned in your presentation, Sylvie, about ventilating. I'm curious, Mike, just to go back a little bit in what you mentioned. What can you make visible at Van der Landen so people can talk about how they really feel? What are the little things that you see in your company? I'm sure playing soccer with your friends or doing an activity with everybody is a great way. But what can you do on a daily basis, for example? Like little things that you can...
Well, in the first place, we try to make aware what means a healthy life balance.
Awareness.
Awareness.
Yeah.
That is very important to show everybody. It starts by yourself. Every day, if you wake up, how do you wake up? How do you feel? How do you go to work? How do you start your job? And then at the end of the day, you want the same energy for home. And if you are at home, you have time for your kids or your family. You know, you have to do your own thing. And not if you're coming home, you haven't any energy anymore. So what we are trying to do is creating the awareness that all the things we organize for the employees, use it, and you will feel better.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's really integrating the balance between work and private, of course.
Yes.
And make it aware. People feel comfortable sharing about it and creating more awareness about how these things are so connected to each other, of course.
And important is, of course, it is not only for the people are doing sports only. It's for everybody. If you need to learn something about soccer or running, come in and we will help you to develop that part for you.
Okay, sounds really great. I think like what you mentioned, it's amazing. It's Van der Laarde has so many employees joining international, I'm sure, who need that access to groups of friends, to activities, to really belong and be part of the company.
And if we do it together and we share the energy, you will see you are more productive and more creative in your job. And that will help you to get more energy for the next day.
Yeah.
Feel happy to come to the office, you know?
Okay. I think this is a great way to wrap up the topic today. Sylvie and Mike, thank you very much again for joining. Sylvie, we'll have you back in our next webinar, of course. I'd like to remind everybody watching to please follow us on social media. We're also going to be sharing all of these presentations and the webinars and even more content in our Cadence community platform. You can also get in communication with other members in the platform, talk about the topics, and share your views about what you do at the moment within your teams to help your employees with mental health, or even talk about it. That's also the first step. So again, thanks everybody for watching, and I'll see you again in our next webinar. That's going to be Change Your Mind. Thank you.
Looking forward.
Thank you.